Right, guys. Some of that came out of the conversation we've been having over the last few days about swordsmanship. Is something which appears to be correct, but which is not. Okay, so let me know what you think down below in the comments below. So we've been doing manuals, right? So this is a keyword: manuals, sword manuals, ninja manuals, etc. And one thing that keeps reoccurring by people who've been quite nice, actually, so there's nothing negative about it, just to give a sense, is they say, well, military manuals today are written, but the soldier will tell you that when on the ground, and actually boots are on the ground, the fighting is very different. So what the manual says, what the government or the military produce, is often very different to what the soldiers do. So therefore, if a samurai manual, we can use that logic to a samurai manual, what it says in the samurai manual is maybe not what is actually happening in real life for samurai. So therefore, Anthony, you can't follow the samurai manuals to get the truth. Okay, sounds perfectly good logic, except it is illogical, because it's the samurai themselves who are the soldiers on the ground. So these are the confusion here is the word manual. People are thinking, oh, well, the military produce regulation manuals, operating manuals, strategy manuals, but actually in real life, things go down differently. This is different. The samurai who are fighting, and this depends on the manual you're using, but the scroll you're using, the manual is written by the soldier, not the administration clerk. Yeah, so the idea of these samurai manuals, if you're picking the correct one, which we hope we are, which we're picking Yagyu's manual by literally the founder of Yagyu, Shinkage Ryu, not Kami Izumi, but the Yagyu branch, that guy. He has sat there and said, this is what I do, and his son, grandson, and that after that have said, this is what we do, and we are pulling all those things together into a collected point. So what we're finding is not that, hey, this is a manual that some people got together and bureaucratically put together and said, this is how we should do it. This is from a guy who's a soldier, boots on the ground, Sengoku period warrior who said, and who studied under other swordsmen and has fought other swordsmen and said, hey, this is how we fought in the Sengoku period. This is swordsmanship. This is it. So whatever there is no manual in Japan. There's no government manual, okay, for how to fight. There isn't a government manual that says it, not to my knowledge anyway. So this idea that, oh, soldiers today fight different to how the manuals they are supplied by their governments, so therefore samurai should really, in theory, logically fight different to how the manuals are. No. So if you want to follow that logic, what's actually happening here is, let's call it an SAS soldier or a ranger or something like that, has gone out, fought in the war, said, all right, I've got all the manuals from the government and all the handbooks, but they don't really tell you what you should do. This is what you should do on the ground. This is what you should do. That is what actually the samurai did. They said, this is how you write swordsmanship. This is how you do swordsmanship. This is how you do that. So the only problem comes in when you find a section where it's like, who wrote the manual? If the manual is written later by someone who's never had a fight, who's never been in a conflict situation, and they are not repeating something from someone who has, because it's okay to repeat what somebody said, like that person. So for example, Miyamoto Musashi writes the Book of Five Rings, and I repeat what he says and says this appears to be a truth. And especially if I get other manuals that say the same thing by people who've 100% been in fighting situations, then I can say, this is a real point. I can pass this point on. But if I just made stuff from, say, well, in a real sword fight, you should do this, this, and this, and it's not got any foundation in from anywhere credible, it might be a good idea, it might be a bad idea, but it's got no credible lineage in, I don't mean lineage meaning just from samurai, I mean lineage meaning in actual combat, then it can be useless. So yes, we do have manuals which may not be very useful to understand how they used to fight, and a lot of those manuals are theoretical late Edo manuals on large-scale military warfare, but they're not all as bad as you think, because actually they're based mainly on Sun Tzu's Art of War and many other manuals which have been gone. So it's never a case of this manual is rubbish, this manual is great. It's always a case of each manual, what is the gradient of use for that manual? What is the gradient of reliability that that manual can give to us? Okay, so what we find here when I say, here's the Yagyu Shinkagyu manual, guys, and this is what it says, and then people say, well, actually, Anthony, in real life fighting, it's different to what the manuals say. Well, I say it's not a manual like you're thinking of a manual. This is a series of notes put together by experienced swordsmen who said, hey, I've actually been fighting and this is what you do. So that's my point. I hope that helps. Please subscribe and check out one of my books. We've got lots of books. Maybe the Book of Bushido is, if you're interested in swordsmanship, is the best to give you a basis in samurai life. But there you go, guys. Let me know what you think of that. Comments well needed below. Unfortunately, my hands are dirty. I've been working. As you know, guys, I now have to live in a caravan while I build the barns, and it's -4 this morning, and all the water is frozen. The toilet's frozen. The pipes are frozen. Even though they're lagged and lined, everything's frozen. We've got nothing. So I'm trying to sort that problem out and do some work at the same time. But I thought I'd take 5 minutes out and chat to you lovely folks.